When I was a child, how I got started being interested in sports was my mother was a track coach. And I had grown up with a dad that loved football. That was his passion. He had been a boxer, had played a little football in junior college, but the passion had never left him. Mother, on the other hand, was a track coach, and she was a pretty good one. So I had four sisters, and, when she went to meets, she couldn't afford to hire anybody to keep us, so we just all loaded up on the bus and went with her. So she was coaching on one hand, babysitting on the other, but, I just grew up around it. And I think when you grow up around something and you're so exposed to it, that it naturally, more times than not, you're going to have an affinity toward it. And I began to participate at a very young age. Started the baseball route like so many guys did in my generation back in the late 60s and early 70s. But my real passion was always football. I just was drawn to the sport. I felt like it just, for what I had been given, gave me the greatest opportunity to showcase the talents and skills that I had. Played in high school, Central Texas team, walked on at Stephen F. Austin, a small college, Division I AA in East Texas, and I was a defensive back there. And that's as far as I ever went in playing. But, as I was in school and got to really thinking, what can you do? What do you want to do? I went back to the thing that I loved the most, and that was, if you can't play, you coach. So I got a degree, got into coaching, high school, junior high, spent a few years in the public school system in the state of Texas, went on and began to do some graduate assistant work at small colleges in Louisiana, and ended up at the University of Alabama as a graduate assistant. And this was in the early 80s. Coach Paul Bryant was stepping down as the head football coach at the University of Alabama, and a guy named Ray Perkins, who had been the head coach for the New York Giants and also had been an All-American wide receiver under Coach Bryant there at the University of Alabama, came in, and he took the reins of that program. And it was that stage of time when Coach Bryant was leaving and stepping down, and Ray Perkins, that I began to work in the graduate assistant realm there, as I worked in the strength and conditioning field. And also I worked on the defensive football staff. I coached the cornerbacks along under our head secondary coach, a guy named Lewis Campbell. But that really is, I think, the time period in my career as a coach when I really saw, I was still a young man, and I really saw, okay, this is where you need to be. This is where actually in the field I can see that I can give back the most to a group of young men. And, some young guys and some young gals, they discovered that a little bit earlier in life. For me, it took into my mid-20s before I discovered that. But I never would go back and trade a day of it, I think.